Mitch Marner leaves the Six for Sin City. Boeser and Demko have new deals with the Canucks as the Sens make some minor moves on day one of free agency. Hey everyone, welcome into Off the Post. Rob Wong joined alongside by Steve Simmons, Bruce Garrioch, and Patrick Johnston. And guys, it was maybe one of the quietest days in NHL free agency history, with a lot of the big names never making it to market. But nonetheless, we will go around the horn, if you will, to take a look at everyone's respective markets and begin with Mitch Marner. Steve, who is now a Vegas Golden Knight after a sign and trade with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Knights are a team that has never been afraid to add elite talent at any cost. And Marner, the latest example of that, getting an 8-year mega deal. How do you think he fits on this roster?
Well, he fits really nicely up front. I suspect he winds up playing right wing for Jack Eichel. And if you're Mitch Marner and you've played 9 years in the NHL and the only centers you've known are Austin Matthews and John Tavares, you're born under you're born under the greatest star ever when you go from Matthews, to Eichel. It doesn't get much better than that. I think that's the good part. What hasn't been brought up or even talked enough about is when Vegas won the Stanley Cup, they probably had the best six-man defense and the deepest six-man defense in the NHL. Really solid, strong, smart defense. Alex Pietrangelo, who's a Hall of Famer in my mind, his career is over. He's no longer there. You don't replace an Alex Pietrangelo. Nicholas Hague, 6'6", big NHL defenseman, pretty solid guy. He's gone. They had to get rid of him for cap reasons. So you've got a defense that's not nearly as good as the one that won the Cup. Your forwards are probably the best they've ever been. But I suspect Marner will do probably point for point pretty similar to what he's done in Toronto, because he's got the luxury of going, from Matthews to Eichel and to Stone and whoever else plays the power play along with him.
Well, I was going to say, I obviously see Vegas a lot, and Steve's bang on. Like, this adds a lot to the top end of this lineup. The idea of him and Eichel is a sensational thought. Like, two fantastic two-way players. There's a reason why I gave Jack Eichel my Selke vote. I don't think people understand what a dominant two-way player he can be. And Marner, obviously, we know the two-way talent's there. And the two of them is going to be a fantastic pairing. But it is very much about what's going to happen on the back end and what else they have when those guys aren't on the ice. One of the things that Kelly McCrimmon has done has built out his roster, constantly finding advantages. But they have struggled to find internal solutions to all those problems. And when you start running into paying guys at the top end this much money, you need to start finding your own defense prospects and things like that. And that is not something that's coming through right now for Vegas. And Vegas is going to have to figure that out, because the dominant team of a few years ago was a team that was tough, and was a great player at every spot. And right now they're running into that problem.
All I can say is, speaking as the little brother from the frozen north here in Ottawa, is I don't like the smell of this deal, Steve. I think last Saturday afternoon I sent you a little note saying I'm hearing that the Leafs and the Vegas Golden Knights are in a bit of a fight here over Mitch Marner, and there are concerns about tampering. And that will now be shoved under the rug. We will not hear anything about any possibility of tampering anymore. There will be no charges filed. But the Senators are sitting here having to give up a first-round pick in next year's draft because they screwed up a trade list in a deal for Evgeny Dadonov, a contract that the Knights had for over a year before they traded him, and never checked the fine details. And I'm sure that the Senators are sitting here right now saying they don't like this. And I would expect that Michael Andlauer will pick up the phone, Stephen, and have a little bit of something to say about it's time to rescind the Senators giving up that first-round pick when you see what happened here with Mitch Marner and the Vegas Golden Knights.
Well, I'm just going to touch on tampering for a second, because tampering means that you're doing something underhanded. Last summer, Vegas and the Leafs talked trade regarding Marner. And during this season, my understanding is, again, they talked trade regarding Marner, who had a no-trade deal. And then I was told this on June 10th. So what day is it now? It's July 2nd?
July 2nd. Yeah.
Okay. On June the 10th, I
You
was
shouldn't lose
told
track of today.
that Marner will be traded to Las Vegas, and that Alex Pietrangelo has played his last NHL game, and he's going on LTIR. And so they're talking trade at that time with a player who is under their auspices, so they're allowed to talk trade, even if he has no trade in his deal. So I don't see where the tampering is here. And if there was, in fact, tampering, and the Leafs were using that as a point of leverage, I'm not sure Nicolas Roy is a great point of leverage for what you're going to get. You would have asked for a lot more than that.
Well, I think they asked for Nick Roy and Nick Hague, and I think that really Vegas thought it was too much to give up.
Well, I was told those two names. I threw them at Kelly McCrimmon, the general manager of Vegas, and he said to me, "You're half right." And he proved to be honest, as Kelly tends to be with his words.
Yeah, very interesting how it all breaks down. But as Bruce said, it's getting shoved under the rug.
Also in all this is maybe there's the LTIR thing. Let's be honest, there's the tax thing. I mean, if you do back to the napkin math, Mitch Marner would have had to sign for something close to $16 million with the Leafs to get the same take home he's getting with Vegas. And Vegas is obviously taking advantage of that. And that's going to become more and more a thing. And
what's the elephant in the room, though, Patrick? I guess my question is, who, as much as he sucks in the playoffs, who's going to replace Marner to help them get to the playoffs?
Well, that you're going to have to figure out between now and then, obviously. Yeah. I want to go back to Patrick's point about playing in the no-tax state, because we're hearing way too much about it as far as I'm concerned. Because at the same time that you're going to Vegas where you're not paying taxes, you're in Toronto getting paid in American dollars, which is 40% more than the country you're living in.
Someone should tell the players that.
So there is a factor there where you're getting your $10 million is now $14 million. So let's try and get some logic behind these tax issues, which, by the way, have led to no Stanley Cups won by the Nashville Predators, the Seattle Kraken, and a whole bunch of other teams, Dallas, and everybody else. There's a lot of teams that haven't won bugger all.
To be clear, I'm mostly with you, Steve. I just think that these things need to be clearer because it's certainly a talking point that people keep going to. I don't think this is the straight and narrow as people go, well, this team gets to pay this guy. I mean, if you want me to go off, I will go off about signing Brad Marchand to a 6-year contract, which is clearly there's no way he's playing all the way to the end. So tell me more about cap recapture and so on and so on. But there are far bigger problems in this league, I think, than the tax situation. I totally agree with Steve. I just think there are elements to it that need to be clearer. And like you said, the salary advantage in Canada is the complete opposite of that. These guys make a lot of money here because they're being paid in not the wage of this country.
When an accountant or a tax expert is the reason that Bill Zito traded for Sam Reinhart, Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, Seth Jones, Brad Marchand. If taxes had anything to do with any of those trades, please let me know, because
he nailed every one of
those. Hockey moves. Yeah. And he was smarter than everybody. He was smarter than everybody else in the bloody game, and now he's got a dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing he had going, guys, on Marchand is that, I think your hero said a few weeks ago that and that would be me, fellas, in case you forgot, that they had a deal done with the LA Kings, and Marchand refused to go and said he was only going to Florida. So sometimes you get a little lucky too, Steve, but we have completely thrown Rob's script off the table. I can't even remember where we're at, but we were going to talk about who's going to replace Mitch Marner. You got to get to the playoffs.
I don't think he's there yet.
No.
Yeah. Whoever it happens to be.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, because you have Matthew Nyes now on the left side of that line, the need to replace Marner with a 90-point guy isn't as necessary as it was before, because now you have before it was Matthews and Marner, Now it's Matthews and Nyes.
Yeah.
And in a world where 2/3 of a line is how most lines begin, that's a pretty good 2/3.
Yeah, coaches often go with
it's
duos
rethinking
now,
the
right?
identity of Leafs, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, look, Moneyball is one of my favorite books and movies, and those Billy Bean teams, they had to recreate some players in the aggregate. So I think that's what Brad Treliving is going to have to do here with 2 or 3 players to try to recoup those 100 points. But moving on to the Vancouver Canucks, Patrick, Brock Boeser was named.
That's a wrap, Rob. Where were we?
Yeah, Brock Boeser. That's where we're at now. He's a guy that did make it to free agency, but in the end chose to re-up with the Canucks on a 7-year deal worth $7.25 million annually. The Canucks also got a 3-year extension done with Thatcher Demko. But when it comes to Boeser, that feels pretty unlikely from an outsider's perspective, Patrick. It seemed like he was out the door, obviously talked a lot at the trade deadline. Nothing materialized there. How surprised, if at all, were you that those deals got done, and specifically with Boeser?
Well, I mean, just first off the top, the Demko one was not a surprise. We had heard that start going back to last week that was in the works. And certainly, I mean, in the long run, is this the right choice? I mean, they're making a bet on a guy that hasn't had a healthy season in years, and yet has been a Vezina quality goalie when he's been on his game. So they're making a bet, and this is a player making a bet that this is something he can do. I mean, 3 years, at 33, he will be eligible for a new contract. And, you talk to people and they're just like, this is a player that's making a bet. He thinks he can deliver on that. As for Boeser, total shock. Like, we all thought he was gone. It was a complete 180 on his situation, and basically getting a call an hour before the market opened on Canada Day. There have been some conversations the night before sort of saying, hey, where are you thinking? But the Canucks were chasing other things. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that the doors got closed in every other direction, which is going to be an ongoing problem for this team. They are struggling to attract free agents for a lot of reasons. But Brock Boeser wanted to stay here. He always wanted to stay here, and basically got the total number that he wanted, which was $50 million, and the place he wanted to be. His girlfriend's from here. He's loved living here, and we'll see. I mean, this is basically running back the team they had last year minus JT Miller. So there's not a whole lot to get excited about, but I will say this: Brock Boeser is one of the good guys in the game, and selfishly, as a media person, I am delighted to have him back.
I love this move on Boeser's part because so often we see guys in sports who are in markets. They love living there. They love the environment. They love the team, even if the team isn't great. They just love being part of the whole scene. Brock Boeser was that, and he made a decision. He could have gone a lot of places. He decided, you know what? My happiness, I think, comes first. And it's not. I think he got the same money. In a whole bunch of places that he wound up getting in Vancouver. He made a decision saying, I want to be in Vancouver. And I think, A, this is such a hockey move, but B, this is such a great move for a guy who decided, this is where I want to live. And I think more than that, in today's world, he's established now. He's got money for the rest of his life. It's all taken care of. He's now in the city he wants to be with his girlfriend. Bravo, Brock Boeser.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I think the Ottawa Senators were quite willing to take a run at Brock Boeser in a 4-year deal, and I think they did that. I think they did more than kick tires on him. But you can't. The guy had a great opportunity to stay in a place where he's comfortable. Good for him. I think we saw it even with Florida, right? Like Ekblad. Ekblad could have got a lot more on the open market. Wanted to stay in Florida. Why not? Now they want to go for a three-peat.
Yeah, it looks good for Boeser for sure on that new contract. Lastly, Bruce, the Senators signed veteran center Lars Eller to a 1-year deal a few days after re-signing Claude Giroux. So they've filled their quota of 35-plus-year-old players, seemingly for next season. They still got about $5 million left in cap space. What do you think is next here for the Senators and Steve Stais?
Well, I think they went looking for scoring, and I think they went looking for toughness. And I think they were right in on Tanner Jeannot, but they weren't going to go 5 years and $3.4 million. I think they wanted to lend some support to Brady Tkachuk. I still think I would think if they're in a playoff position at next year's deadline, I would think they'll try to add some scoring. I think that one of the things that Travis Green, one of the approach he might take next season, guys, is maybe just to put the brakes a little on leaning on these guys to be so, harping on them so much about defense, and maybe allowing, or not allowing, because I don't think he tries to stifle offense. That's not the right word. Just maybe one thing this team has to do is shoot the puck more. They don't shoot the puck nearly enough, but they were 30th in 5-on-5 scoring. They need some scoring help. That they signed Fabian Zetterlund. I think that's a risky contract, but we'll find out. I mean, the answers, what the message they've sent, guys, is the answers are going to have to come from within. The problem I have is, Steve, I don't think they're as good as the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Florida Panthers.
Here's the problem everyone in the East now has, and maybe everyone in the entire league. If you're a GM and you're trying to win a Stanley Cup, if that's your goal, and that should be every GM's goal on most years, you're now in a position where you're howling at the moon because the Panthers are too good, because they are too deep. They have everything. You would really have. Are you going to have better goaltending? No. Are you going to have a better deep defense? No. Are you going to have 3 forward lines like they have? No. So everybody's trying, as Ottawa's trying, Toronto's trying, and everybody's trying to put little pieces together to get better. And they hope they do. But boy, the world just got a lot tougher in the last 5 or 6 days as Bill Zito signed everybody and brought the whole troop back together. And Ottawa's looking to find scoring. And Toronto's looking to find scoring. And the New York Rangers are looking to find scoring, and Carolina's looking to find scoring, and just about everybody in the freaking league is looking to find scoring, and there's no scorers available, or next to none. And, I love what Steve Yzerman did, by example. Steve Yzerman now has Patrick Kane and James Van Riemsdyk, by the way. The first 2 picks of I don't remember what year the draft was, but the first 2 picks, that he's building a team for 20 years ago.
Yeah, very interesting build that's going on in Detroit. I feel like we don't talk about them enough, just what the heck Stevie Y is attempting to do with that team. But it's been an interesting start, to say the least, to NHL free agency. Still a long way to go before we get to training camp. We'll see what happens, as always. Sorry, go ahead, Steve. One more.
I was going to touch on just one thing. We didn't mention Montreal. And I think Montreal has a trajectory upwards that I think is greater than what the Senators have at this point in time.
Yeah,
so while the Senators finished ahead of Montreal and the Leafs finished ahead of the Senators and Montreal, man, of the teams in the Atlantic Division right now, the one that worries me the most are the Montreal Canadiens.
The one thing I would say about Ottawa, though, is, if Allmark is healthy and Marilyn they signed to be their backup, I think they've got better goaltending.
Yes, I agree.
But that's just me. I'm a homer.
I really like that trade. I really like that trade that the Habs made for Zach Balduke. I thought that kid has a lot going there, and it was a smart move. Team that's deep in defense, and bringing in a guy that I thought he was great. So there we go. Yeah. Oh,
they got their captain too.
He looks a bit like Boreas Salming in that.
Great leader.
He looks like Boreas Salming in that bobblehead.
Actually, not bad, eh?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think we need to get a Garrioch bobblehead as well. Maybe we can hand those out.
When's our hero? When's our hero's bobblehead?
All right, that's enough.
As always. As always, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. For Bruce Garrioch, Patrick Johnston, Steve Simmons, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.